Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty heavy.
Yeah.
A really tragic event. A bicycle crash
Right.
that happened on June 7, 2016,
Yeah.
in Cooper Township,
Mm-hmm.
Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
Okay.
And we have a lot of different sources for this.
Yeah.
Everything from the initial news reports that came out,
Right.
right after it happened,
Oh.
to the findings of the NTSB,
Yeah.
the National Transportation Safety Board.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Okay.
we also have information about
Yeah.
the legal proceedings
Right.
and how the community reacted.
Interesting.
So our goal here
Yeah.
in this deep dive
Mm-hmm.
is to kind of extract
Yeah.
the crucial elements of what happened,
Okay.
give you a clear picture
Yeah.
of this event
Without.
without overwhelming you
Yeah. Yeah.
with too many details.
Okay. Cool.
So
yeah.
starting with
The event itself.
the event itself,
Yeah.
June 7, 2016,
Mm.
Cooper Township,
Right.
Kalamazoo County, Michigan,
Okay.
very near
Yeah.
Mark and Glen Park.
Mark and Glen Park.
And for those of you
Okay.
who like to know exactly where things happen,
Yeah.
the coordinates are 42 degrees,
Right.
19 minutes, 27 seconds north,
Okay.
and 85 degrees,
Right.
35 minutes, 24 seconds west.
Got it.
This event is also known by a couple other names.
Okay.
The Kalamazoo cycling tragedy
Yeah.
and the Cooper Township crash.
Right. Right.
And what's
yeah.
what's
What
gonna
really jumps out.
yeah, what jumps out at me
Here.
is the group of cyclists.
Yes.
This wasn't just a
Yeah.
couple of people riding their bikes.
Right.
This was a group called the Chain Gang.
Yeah. The chain gang.
And that right there
Yeah.
tells you something.
Right.
This is
It speaks to
it speaks to
the community aspect.
their camaraderie.
Yeah. These
Right.
were people who rode together.
Rode together regularly.
Yeah, regularly.
And around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time
Okay.
on West Edge Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
this group.
This group was hit by a pickup truck
Oh wow!
from behind.
From behind.
And the immediate aftermath was just devastating.
Yeah.
5 of the cyclists died at the scene.
Oh my gosh!
4 were injured.
Wow.
I remember reading a statement from Paul Selden,
Mm-hmm.
who was the director of road safety
Yeah.
for the Kalamazoo Bicycle Club.
Yeah.
And he described this as potentially the worst
No.
incident of its kind in Kalamazoo County
Yeah.
and possibly even Michigan.
So this is a huge,
a huge tragedy.
Yeah.
Also worth noting
Yeah.
that rescue services arrived within
That's
2 minutes.
Oh well, so
Very quickly.
very
Wow.
quickly.
Yeah.
And it's important
Yep.
to remember the names
Yeah.
of the people who died that day.
Of course.
Their names were Debbie Bradley,
Okay.
who was 53,
Mhm.
from Augusta.
Okay.
Suzanne Jones Sipple,
Mhm.
56,
Yeah.
also of Augusta.
Okay.
Lorenz John,
Mhm.
known as Larry Pollock,
Okay.
74, from Kalamazoo.
Mm-hmm.
Fred Anton,
Okay.
or Tony Nelson,
Yeah.
73,
Mm-hmm.
also from Kalamazoo.
Okay.
And Melissa Ann Fevicuse,
Okay.
who was 42
Yeah.
and from Augusta.
Got it.
Um,
So yeah.
and then moving on to
the driver.
the investigation.
Right.
Um,
And here's where things.
here's where things get
Yeah.
a little disturbing.
Okay.
It turns out
Yeah.
witnesses had observed
Right.
a pickup truck driving erratically
Okay.
in Cooper Township
Mm-hmm.
a full 30 minutes
30 minutes.
before the crash.
Oh,
Before the
yeah.
crash even happened.
Oh wow.
And what's more,
Yeah.
they reported it to
But
the
police. So they reported it
to the police,
Janet.
so somebody knew.
Somebody knew that
Yeah.
this was happening.
Right, that this person was driving
Yeah.
erratically 30
Yeah.
minutes.
30 minutes before.
Prior to the crash.
Yeah.
That's
That's really disturbing to me.
I know, it makes you think about
Yeah.
what could have
Yeah. Could this have been prevented?
could it have been prevented, or
yeah.
how seriously are
Yeah.
those kinds of reports
Yeah.
taken?
Yeah.
When someone
Yeah.
calls in
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
what are the systems in place
Yeah.
to react to that?
Yeah. And then the crash itself,
Just awfully.
horrific.
Yeah.
An
An accident reconstruction.
accident reconstruction expert
Yeah.
later testified
Okay.
that the pickup truck was going an estimated 58 miles per hour.
58 miles per hour in an area where the speed limit
Okay.
is 30.
So almost double.
Yeah, almost double
Speed limit.
the speed limit.
Wow.
And after the crash,
And after the crash,
yeah,
the driver fled,
the driver fled the scene.
but was apprehended quickly.
Okay.
And because of the magnitude of this event,
Mm-hmm.
the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board,
Yeah.
took the lead
They got involved
in the investigation.
Yeah. So their involvement kind of shows
how big of a deal this was.
Right. This was not just a local traffic accident. This was something that they felt needed a more thorough, nationwide kind of investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on July 29, 2016,
okay,
the NTSB issued a preliminary report.
Okay.
And it stated that the driver had used medication and illicit drugs.
And illicit drugs. So before the crash.
That changes things a little bit.
Yeah, it really does.
You know, if you think about it, the whole context. Yeah, the whole context is so dangerous.
Right.
And it's not just about driving.
Yeah,
it's about being responsible when you're operating a vehicle.
Right.
And
knowing what those consequences could be.
Yeah. And the driver was identified?
The driver was identified as Charles Pickett Jr.
Charles Pickett Jr.
A 50-year-old man from Battle Creek.
From Battle Creek.
And he had...
It was discovered that he had a prior DUI charge.
Oh, wow.
In Tennessee back in 2011.
In 2011, okay.
Although that charge was dismissed.
It was dismissed.
Yeah.
So that prior incident...
Yeah. It makes you wonder.
Even though it didn't result in anything.
Right. Like, what happened?
Yeah. What were the circumstances?
Yeah. Were there any lessons learned or actions taken that might have changed the events of 2016?
Right. Yeah. And then let's talk about the legal proceedings.
Okay. What were the charges?
So initially, the Kalamazoo County prosecutor charged Pickett with 5 counts of second-degree murder.
5 counts of second-degree murder.
And 4 counts of reckless driving.
Okay. And second-degree murder.
And for those who don't know, second-degree murder is generally a killing that's done with malice, but without premeditation.
So without planning.
Without planning.
Okay. So it often involves.
It often involves like a depraved indifference to human life.
Yeah. So a real lack of concern for the lives of others.
Yeah.
So those charges.
But those charges were later amended after the Michigan State Police Crime Lab completed its toxicology report.
Got it.
And amended charges included 5 counts of operating a vehicle.
Okay. While intoxicated.
While intoxicated, causing death.
Okay. So the toxicology report.
And the blood samples showed that there was methamphetamine.
Oh, wow.
Muscle relaxers and pain medication.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff in his system.
In his system at the time of the crash.
Right.
It's that toxicology report.
So that really cemented, it showed
the connection between
the impairment and
the deaths. Yeah.
And on top of those charges, he also faced 4 counts of operating while intoxicated, causing serious injury. Which replaced the reckless driving charges.
Got it.
So in 2018,
the case went to trial.
And
Charles Pickett Jr. was found guilty.
Oh, wow.
On all charges. After just 4 hours.
Just 4 hours.
Jury deliberation.
A deliberation. So a quick verdict like that.
Yeah, it makes you think.
Kind of speaks to.
That the evidence was just overwhelming.
Overwhelming, right.
And he was sentenced to 40 to 75 years in prison.
40 to 75 years. Wow.
This was broken down as 35 to 55 years concurrently for each of the 5 murder counts.
Okay. On top of that?
8 to 15 years consecutively for each of the 5 counts of operating under the influence causing death.
Right.
And then 3 to 5 years for each of the 4 counts of operating under the influence causing injury.
Right.
So
those consecutive sentences really
it shows you how serious this is.
Right, how seriously the court took driving under the influence and causing these deaths.
Okay. And he's currently incarcerated at the Thumb Correctional Facility.
It's the Thumb Correctional Facility
in Michigan.
Okay.
So let's move on.
Yeah, let's talk about
the impact on the community. And wider reactions.
It's hard to imagine what Kalamazoo went through.
To grasp.
Yeah. Because they had also experienced a shooting spree.
It also had
just a few months prior.
A shooting spree.
In February of 2016.
In February.
So
they had 2 tragedies
back to back
like that.
Yeah, that must have been
really difficult,
really tough on the community. In the cycling community.
A cycling community, both locally and beyond.
Of course.
Really felt the loss.
Felt the loss. And there was a lot of...
There was a lot of shock and sadness.
Yeah, shock and sadness.
And a lot of support.
And support.
For the victims' families.
For the victims' families.
And it really shows you...
Yeah, it shows you how strong those bonds are within that community.
And those communities.
Yeah. And they actually...
And a permanent memorial was unveiled at Mark-and-Glen County Park.
Okay.
On the second anniversary.
On the second anniversary.
The tragedy in 2018.
So a place to remember.
So a place to remember and reflect.
Yeah.
And even Lance Armstrong. Commented on the crash.
Yeah, what did he say?
He called it so tragic.
So tragic.
In an interview.
Really, So
it really resonated.
Resonated widely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to sum up.
Yeah, to bring this to bring this back around, this was a
devastating event.
A devastating event.
That really stemmed from
impaired driving.
Yeah. And resulted in...
And it resulted in the loss of life.
The loss of life. Yeah. And had a huge impact.
A huge impact on the community. The driver's actions.
Yeah.
The response of the emergency services. The investigation by the NTSB. The legal proceedings. All show.
They paint how serious this was.
A picture of just how serious it is.
And the fact that there were reports of erratic driving.
Right.
30 minutes before the crash.
30 minutes before the day.
Really makes you think.
It really does. It makes you think, how can we prevent these things? When we see those early warning signs,
right?
What's our responsibility?
Yeah. What's our responsibility?
As individuals.
Yeah, as individuals and as a community to take those things seriously.
Yeah.
And make sure that something happens.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully this deep dive has given you
a better
good understanding
of this event.
And it's something that we all need to think about. How can we be safer on the roads?
To be safer for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. For everybody.
For everybody.
Pedestrians.
Yeah.
Drivers. Cyclists.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's it for today.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
For another deep dive.